My son keeps apologizing for what he'll do when he turns 7. He turns 7 tomorrow. My son Liam started apologizing 3 months ago, right after his 6th birthday party. The first time, we were eating breakfast, and he suddenly looked up from his cereal and said, "I'm really sorry about what I'm going to do." I laughed and asked what he meant, and he just shook his head and went back to eating. My wife Rachel thought it was cute, one of those random kid things that don't mean anything. But then he did it again 2 days later, and again the day after that. Always the same phrase, "I'm sorry about what I'm going to do." When I asked him to explain, he'd get this distant look in his eyes and say he didn't know exactly, just that something bad was going to happen and it would be his fault. The apologies got more frequent as his 7th birthday approached. Every morning at breakfast, every night at dinner, sometimes in the middle of playing with his toys, he'd stop whatever he was doing, look at me or Rachel with these sad eyes, and apologize for something that hadn't happened yet. I started noticing other changes too. Liam began drawing pictures at night instead of sleeping. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom and see light under his door. When I'd check on him, he'd be sitting at his little desk with crayons everywhere, drawing the same thing over and over. Our house, our exact house, with the blue shutters and the maple tree in front. But in every picture, there was fire, orange and red flames coming out of the windows. I asked him why he kept drawing our house on fire, and he said, because that's what happens. When I pressed for more details, he started crying and said he was sorry, that he didn't want to do it, but he had to. My wife thought we should take him to a therapist. We got an appointment with a child psychologist named Dr. Ellis for the week after his birthday. The apologies became more specific in the final month. Instead of just saying, sorry, Liam would add details that made my blood run cold. "I'm sorry I'm going to hurt people. I'm sorry about the smoke. I'm sorry you won't be able to stop me." When I asked who taught him to say these things, he looked confused and said nobody taught him. He just knew. 3 weeks before his 7th birthday, I found matches hidden under his mattress. A whole box of them, stolen from the kitchen drawer. I confronted Liam, and he started sobbing, saying he didn't know why he took them, that his hands just did it while his brain was thinking about something else. I installed a lock on his bedroom door that could only be opened from the outside. Rachel thought I was overreacting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was building toward his birthday. Liam didn't fight the lock. He just said, "That's good, maybe that will stop me." The night before his 7th birthday, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the apologies, all the drawings, all the weird behavior that had been escalating for months. Around 3 a.m., I got up to check on Liam and found his door wide open. The lock I'd installed was still engaged, but the door was open like it hadn't been locked at all. Liam's bed was empty. I ran through the house calling his name, my heart hammering in my chest. Rachel woke up and helped me search. We found him in the garage, standing in front of my workbench where I kept tools and supplies for house projects. He was holding a can of gasoline, just standing there in his pajamas, staring at it. I asked what he was doing, and he turned to look at me with tears streaming down his face. He said, "It's starting. I can feel it starting. I don't want to do this, Dad. I'm so sorry." I grabbed the gasoline from his hands and pulled him into a hug. He was shaking, and he kept apologizing over and over. We brought him back to his room and sat with him until the sun came up. When morning arrived, it was officially his 7th birthday. Liam ate breakfast quietly, no longer apologizing. Around noon, Rachel went to run errands while I stayed home with Liam. He was playing in the living room, building something with locks, when I noticed he'd gone completely still. I asked if he was okay, and he didn't respond, just sat there frozen, staring at nothing. Then his head turned slowly toward the kitchen, where I'd left a candle burning on the counter from earlier that morning, and that's when I realized what my son had been apologizing for. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I watch in horror as Liam's body begins to move toward the kitchen, his steps jerky and unnatural, like he's being pulled by invisible strings. His small frame moves with a stiffness I've never seen before, as if his joints are fighting against whatever force is controlling him. "Liam," my voice cracks. "Buddy, stop." He doesn't respond. His eyes are fixed on the candle flame dancing on the kitchen counter. I rush forward and grab him by the shoulders, intending to physically stop him, but recoil at the touch. His skin is radiating heat like a furnace, burning through his thin t-shirt. "Jesus," I gasp, but don't let go despite the uncomfortable warmth. "Liam, look at me." His eyes finally flicker to mine, and what I see chills me to the bone despite the heat coming off him. Pure terror. His eyes are wide with fear, but his body continues trying to move toward the flame as if possessed. His mouth opens and closes, but no words come out. "Dad," he finally manages, his voice barely audible. "I can't stop it. I'm sorry." I wrap my arms around him, ignoring the heat that makes my skin prickle painfully. His body strains against my hold, still trying to reach the candle. I lift him off the ground, carrying him backward away from the kitchen, but his arms stretch out toward the flame like it's calling to him. The front door opens, and Rachel walks in with grocery bags. She freezes at the sight of us struggling. "What's happening?" She drops the bags, oranges rolling across the floor. "Something's wrong with Liam." I manage, still holding our son as he twists in my arms. He's burning up. He's trying to get to the candle. Rachel rushes over, her hand going to Liam's forehead. She yanks it back immediately. "Oh my God, he's on fire." Just as the words leave her mouth, Liam goes completely limp in my arms, his body suddenly heavy and slack. The heat that had been radiating from him disappears so quickly it's like someone flipped a switch. His skin grows cool to the touch, too cool. "Liam!" I lower him to the floor as Rachel kneels beside us. His eyes are closed, his breathing shallow. "We need to go to the hospital," Rachel says, already pulling out her phone. "Now." The emergency room is bright and sterile. We've been here for hours, watching doctors run tests on our unconscious son. His temperature has stabilized, but it's lower than normal 95.6 degrees when it should be around 98.6. The doctors are puzzled. Blood work, brain scans, physical examinations, everything comes back normal. There's no medical explanation for what happened. "Has Liam been under any unusual stress lately?" the doctor asks, flipping through his chart. Rachel and I exchange a look. How do we explain the months of apologies? The fire drawings? The matches under his mattress? It all sounds insane. "He's been having some behavioral issues," Rachel says carefully. "We have an appointment with a child psychologist next week." The doctor nods, making a note. "Children can manifest stress in unusual physical ways. It could be psychosomatic." I want to scream that our 7-year-old son's body temperature doesn't spike to dangerous levels because of stress, that normal children don't sleepwalk to gasoline cans or get magnetically pulled toward flames. But I stay quiet. Liam wakes up as they're preparing to discharge him. He blinks in confusion, looking around at the hospital room. Mom? Dad? What happened? His voice is small and tired. Why are we at the doctor's? You don't remember? I ask gently. He shakes his head. The last thing I remember is eating breakfast. Did I get sick? Rachel strokes his hair. You had a little episode, sweetheart, but you're okay now. On the drive home, Rachel suggests canceling the appointment with Dr. Ellis. Maybe this was just a one-time thing, she says quietly while Liam dozes in the back seat. He seems fine now. It could have been a weird reaction to something he ate. Rachel, I say, my voice low but firm. Our son was drawn to fire like a moth to a flame. His skin was hot enough to burn me. This wasn't food poisoning, but the doctors found nothing wrong. Because they were looking for medical explanations, I interrupt. We need to keep that appointment, and I need to show you something when we get home. Once Liam is settled in bed, I bring Rachel to the stack of drawings I've been collecting, page after page of our house engulfed in flames. She flips through them, her face growing paler with each image. When did he draw these? She whispers. Over the past 3 months, the same time the apologies started. I pull up the security camera footage on my phone, the new system I installed after finding Liam with the gasoline. The grainy night vision video shows our son sleepwalking through the kitchen at 2 a.m. 3 days ago. He stands motionless in front of the drawer where we keep matches, his hand hovering over the handle for nearly 10 minutes before he finally turns and walks back to bed. Rachel sinks into a chair, her hand covering her mouth. This isn't normal, she finally admits. This isn't just stress or nightmares or a phase. No, I agree. It's not. Do you think, she hesitates, do you think it could be something supernatural? The word hangs between us. A week ago, I would have laughed at the suggestion. Now, after what I've seen, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I answer honestly. But whatever it is, it started when he turned 7, just like he warned us it would. That night, I ask Liam about the garage incident. He looks at me blankly. What garage incident? Last night, before your birthday, you were in the garage with the gasoline can. His brow furrows. I don't remember that, Dad. Are you sure it was me? The question sends a chill down my spine. Of course it was him. I saw him with my own eyes. But the genuine confusion on his face tells me he truly doesn't remember. In the morning, Rachel's scream wakes me. I rush to Liam's room to find her, examining his hands. The tips of his fingers are covered in strange, circular burn marks. Perfect little circles, like he pressed each finger against something scorching hot. I didn't do anything, Liam insists, looking as confused as we are. They were just there when I woke up. That afternoon, while Liam naps under Rachel's watchful eye, I drive to the hardware store. I return with a dozen smoke detectors, fire extinguishers for every room, and child-proof locks for every drawer and cabinet. I spend hours installing them, securing our home against whatever is happening to our son. I gather every match, lighter, and flammable substance I can find, and lock them in a fireproof safe in the garage. As I work, I can't shake the image of Liam's terrified eyes as his body moved toward the flame against his will. My son is fighting something, and I don't know what it is or how to help him. All I know is that the apologies have stopped. Whatever he was warning us about has already begun. Dr. Ellis's office is nothing like I expected. Instead of the stereotypical couch and dimly lit room, it's bright and colorful with children's artwork covering the walls. Liam sits cross-legged on a beanbag chair, fidgeting with a small stress ball as Dr. Ellis reviews the notes Rachel and I prepared about the incidents. So, Dr. Ellis says, removing her glasses, you believe your son has some sort of supernatural connection to fire? Her tone makes it clear what she thinks of our theory. I know how it sounds, I say, leaning forward, but we've documented everything. The sleepwalking, the temperature fluctuations, the burn marks that appeared overnight. Dr. Ellis smiles patiently. Children Liam's age often have vivid imaginations. Coupled with sleepwalking, which is common at this developmental stage, it can seem quite concerning to parents. Rachel shifts uncomfortably beside me. This isn't imagination. You didn't feel how hot his skin was. Fevers can spike quickly in children, Dr. Ellis counters, and night terrors can manifest physically. It's not night terrors, I interrupt. Something is drawing him to fire. He can't control it. Dr. Ellis turns to Liam, who's been silent throughout our exchange. Liam, can you tell me how you feel about fire? Does it scare you? Liam looks up, his eyes suddenly intense. It doesn't scare me. It calls me. The room falls silent. Even Dr. Ellis seems momentarily thrown by his response. What do you mean by calls you? She asks carefully. Liam squeezes the stress ball rhythmically. Ever since my birthday, I feel pulled to it, like it wants me to come closer. He pauses, looking down at his fingertips where the circular burn marks have faded to pink scars. Sometimes I can hear it whispering. What does it whisper? I ask, my throat tight. I don't know the words, Liam says, but I understand them anyway. Dr. Ellis makes notes, her professional demeanor returning. This could be a manifestation of anxiety, possibly OCD tendencies. The fire becomes a focal point for intrusive thoughts, which his mind then interprets as calling to him. She recommends cognitive behavioral therapy and suggests we remove all sources of fire anxiety from our home. No more candles, no fireplaces, nothing that could reinforce what she calls his fixation. We leave with prescriptions for mild anti-anxiety medication and a follow-up appointment scheduled for next week. She thinks we're crazy, I say as we drive home. Or worse, that we're making Liam crazy. Rachel stares out the window. Maybe she's right. Maybe we're overreacting to normal childhood behavior. Normal? I glance at her in disbelief. Rachel, his skin burned me. That's not normal. That night, we're awakened by frantic pounding on our front door. I stumble downstairs, disoriented and alarmed, to find our neighbor Mr. Patel standing there in pajama pants and a t-shirt. Your boy, he pants, pointing toward his house. He's in my yard by the grill. I don't wait for him to finish. I sprint across our lawn and through the gap in the hedge that separates our properties. In the dim light of early dawn, I see Liam standing perfectly still beside Mr. Patel's charcoal grill. The lid is off, and despite the morning chill, red embers still glow from last night's barbecue. Liam's right hand is extended directly over the coals, hovering just inches above the heat. His face is serene, almost blissful. Liam! I shout, rushing toward him. He doesn't respond or move. As I get closer, I can feel the heat from the grill. It's still hot enough to cause serious burns. I grab Liam and pull him back, expecting to find his palm blistered and raw, but his hand is completely unharmed, not even red. He was like that when I found him, Mr. Patel says, having followed me, just standing there with his hand over the coals. I thought he'd burn himself, but he trails off, clearly disturbed. How long was he here? I ask, checking Liam over. He's still in that trance-like state, his eyes unfocused. unfocused. I don't know. My dog started barking about 10 minutes ago. That's when I looked out and saw him. I carry Liam home while Rachel thanks Mr. Patel profusely and promises to explain later, though I have no idea what explanation we could possibly give. Back in our house, Liam slowly comes back to himself, blinking in confusion. Why am I downstairs? He asks, looking around. Did I sleepwalk again? You were at Mr. Patel's, Rachel says gently. By his grill. Liam's face crumples. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. We know, buddy, I assure him, but we need to understand what's happening. Do you remember anything? Any dreams? He shakes his head, then pauses. I remember feeling warm, really warm and safe, like someone was hugging me. Rachel calls her mother later that day. I can only hear her side of the conversation, but her increasingly agitated tone tells me something significant is being revealed. Why didn't you ever tell me this? She demands. All these years, no, Mom, this isn't just some family quirk. Liam could have been seriously hurt. She listens for a long moment, then says quietly, I need everything you have. Family records, photos, anything about great-grandfather Sullivan. When she hangs up, her face is pale. My mother just told me that fire-related incidents run in her side of the family. My great-grandfather supposedly died in a house fire that he started himself. There were rumors he could manipulate fire somehow. Manipulate fire? I repeat. What does that even mean? I don't know, but Mom's sending over an old family journal that might have answers. That night, Liam produces another drawing. This one is different from his previous pictures of our house burning. It shows intricate symbols arranged in a circular pattern, drawn with surprising precision for a 7-year-old. The symbols look ancient curved lines and sharp angles that form shapes I've never seen before. What are these, Liam? I ask, trying to keep my voice casual. He shrugs. I don't know. I saw them in my head. I take photos of the symbols and email them to a history professor at the local university. His response comes surprisingly quickly. These appear to be ancient fire worship markings, similar to those found in early pagan rituals. Where did you find these? I don't answer him. 3 nights later, Rachel shakes me awake at 2 a.m. Listen, she whispers. From down the hall, I can hear Liam's voice, but it doesn't sound like him at all. The cadence is wrong, the pitch deeper, and the words aren't English or any language I recognize. The sounds are guttural and rhythmic, almost like chanting. We find him sitting upright in bed, eyes open but unseeing, speaking fluently in this unknown tongue. The temperature in his room is at least 10 degrees warmer than the rest of the house. Liam, Rachel says, touching his shoulder. Wake up, sweetheart. His eyes snap to hers, and for a moment I swear they flicker orange in the darkness. Then he blinks, and he's just our little boy again, confused and scared. Was I talking in my sleep? He asks. Do you know what language that was? I ask instead of answering. He frowns. Was I not speaking English? The package from Rachel's mother arrives 2 days later. Inside is a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. The handwriting is faded but legible, dated 1923. It belongs to Rachel's great-grandmother, and the first entry we read makes my blood run cold. The fire gift has awakened in Sullivan again. Just as his father before him, it came on his 7th birthday. I pray he learns to control it before it consumes him, as it did his grandfather. Rachel reads further, her hands trembling. It says the gift always manifests at age 7. The child feels drawn to flames, can withstand heat that would burn others, and eventually learns to command fire itself. This can't be real, I whisper, but even as I say it, I know it is. We've seen too much to deny it now. The journal mentions an awakening in the bloodline, Rachel continues. It says some children only carry the gift dormantly, but others, she looks up at me, tears in her eyes, others become vessels for it. That night, as if to confirm everything we've read, Liam's temperature spikes so high that his bed sheets are warm to the touch. When he has a nightmare about fire, every light bulb in his room explodes simultaneously, showering glass that miraculously avoids his bed entirely. Rachel sits at the kitchen table afterwards, staring at nothing. My childhood home burned down when I was 7, she says suddenly. I never told you because I didn't remember it clearly. My parents said it was an electrical fire, but you think it was you? I ask, the implications dawning on me. She nods slowly. I think I had what Liam has, but it went dormant somehow. I never knew. She looks at me, fear and determination mingling in her eyes. We need to help him control this before someone gets hurt. I think of Liam's hand hovering unburned above the hot coals and wonder if it's already too late to stop whatever has awakened in our son. The morning after Liam's temperature episode, Rachel sits at our kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee gone cold. She hasn't touched it. Her eyes are fixed on something distant, something I can't see. I need to tell you something, she finally says, her voice barely above a whisper. About my father. I sit across from her, waiting. The house is quiet. Liam's still asleep upstairs after his exhausting night. My father had the same symptoms when he was Liam's age. She looks up at me, her eyes brimming with guilt. The sleepwalking, the fascination with fire, the temperature fluctuations, all of it. Why didn't you tell me this before? I try to keep the accusation out of my voice, but it slips through anyway, because I thought it was over. A tear slides down her cheek. My grandmother told me it skipped generations sometimes. I never showed any signs, so I thought. She trails off, shaking her head. I convinced myself it was just family superstition. Superstition, I repeat, struggling to process what she's saying. Rachel, what exactly is it? She takes a deep breath. A curse, or a gift, depending on who you ask. It's been in my family for centuries, dating back to Ireland. The fire affinity, they called it. I think of Liam's hand hovering unburned over Mr. Patel's hot coals, of his skin burning with fever one moment and ice cold the next. How does it work? I ask, trying to approach this rationally despite the absurdity of discussing family curses at our kitchen table on a Tuesday morning. I don't know all the details. My father never talked about it. He was ashamed, I think. But my grandmother said it always manifests around the 7th birthday. The child becomes a vessel for the fire. Before I can respond, there's a crash from the living room, followed by Rachel's scream. I bolt from my chair to find Liam standing in front of the window, his eyes wide with shock. The curtains beside him are engulfed in flames, spreading rapidly up the fabric. I grab the fire extinguisher we installed by the couch and douse the fire while Rachel pulls Liam away. When the flames are out and the acrid smell of chemicals fills the air, I turn to my son. What happened? I demand, my heart still racing. I was just looking at them, Liam whispers, staring at the blackened remains of our curtains. I was thinking about how the sun made them look orange, like fire, and then he makes a small gesture with his hands. They just started burning. Rachel and I exchange a look of pure terror. This is no longer longer about sleepwalking or being drawn to existing flames. Liam just created fire with nothing but his gaze. We need help, I say. Professional help, not Dr. Ellis, someone who understands what's happening. Rachel nods, pulling out her phone. My grandmother mentioned a relative, my father's cousin, Eliza. She survived the curse, learned to control it somehow. She lives about 3 hours north of here. 2 days later, we're sitting in Eliza Sullivan's living room. She's in her 70s, with bright eyes that seem to flicker with inner light, and silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. Her home is surprisingly modern, with no candles or open flames of any kind in sight. So it's awakened in another generation, she says, studying Liam with intense interest. I wondered if it would. The power grows stronger with each bearer. How do we stop it? I ask desperately. Eliza shakes her head. You don't stop it. It's part of him now, woven into his very being. But he can learn to control it, to channel it. How? Rachel asks. The same way I did. Through the ritual of acceptance. She turns to Liam, who's been unusually quiet. The fire calls to you because it recognizes itself in you. You must face it without fear. Embrace it as part of yourself. I don't understand, I say. The fire is not your enemy, Eliza explains, her eyes never leaving Liam. It's a part of your bloodline, a gift passed down through generations. Those who fight it are consumed by it. Those who accept it learn to master it. She describes a ritual, ancient and specific, involving symbols drawn in ash and words spoken in that strange language we heard Liam speaking in his sleep. It requires an open flame, a circle of protection, and absolute courage from Liam. He must face the fire, Eliza says firmly. Look into its heart without flinching. Only then will it recognize him as its master rather than its vessel. On the drive home, Rachel calls her mother. We need the family heirlooms, she says without preamble. The ones from great-grandfather Sullivan. Yes, all of them. It's happening to Liam. 3 days later, Rachel's mother arrives with a wooden box inlaid with copper. Inside are strange objects, a curved knife with symbols etched into the blade, a small stone bowl blackened by smoke, and a medallion bearing the exact symbols from Liam's drawings. These have been passed down for generations, Rachel's mother explains, her hands trembling slightly as she displays each item. They're used in the ritual of acceptance. We prepare a space in our backyard fire pit that evening, following Eliza's detailed instructions. Rachel draws the symbols in ash around the perimeter while I arrange kindling in the center. Liam watches us work, unusually calm, despite knowing what's coming. Are you scared? I ask him quietly. He shakes his head. It doesn't want to hurt me, Dad. It just wants to be part of me. Just as we're about to begin, Rachel looks around with sudden alarm. Where's Liam? He was right beside us moments ago, but now he's vanished. Panic surges through me as we call his name, searching the yard, the house, every room, the basement. Rachel whispers suddenly. Check the basement. I rush downstairs and freeze at the bottom step. Liam kneels in the center of the concrete floor, surrounded by candles arranged in the same pattern as his drawings. The flames rise unnaturally high, defying physics, and in the center of the circle, Liam's eyes glow orange, like molten metal. Liam, I breathe, afraid to step closer. I had to make my own altar, he says, his voice eerily calm. The fire showed me how. Rachel appears behind me, gasping at the sight. Without hesitation, she steps forward into the circle of candles, kneeling beside our son. She opens the family journal and begins reciting words in that ancient language, her pronunciation perfect, despite never having spoken it before. As she speaks, the flames from each candle stretch toward Liam, surrounding him in a cocoon of fire that somehow doesn't burn him. His eyes glow brighter, his skin illuminated from within, and for a moment I'm certain I've lost them both. Then Liam collapses, the fires extinguishing simultaneously, plunging the basement into darkness. I rush forward, heart in my throat, and gather him into my arms. His skin is warm, not burning hot, not ice cold, just the normal warmth of a sleeping child. Is he? I can't finish the question. Rachel touches his forehead, then nods. He's okay. The ritual worked. As if in response, Liam's eyes flutter open. They're his normal brown again. No trace of that terrifying orange glow, but there's something new in them, a wisdom, an awareness that wasn't there before. I understand now, he whispers. I know what I am. Liam's eyes flutter open, and I know immediately that something has changed. There's a new awareness in his gaze, a calm understanding that seems impossible for a 7-year-old. His skin is warm, not the terrifying heat from before, just the normal warmth of a child who's been sleeping under blankets. Dad, he whispers, reaching for my hand. I can feel it now. It's not trying to hurt me anymore. Rachel sits beside us on the basement floor, the extinguished candles surrounding us like a protective circle. The family journal lies open on her lap, its ancient pages illuminated by the single flashlight I managed to grab when the lights went out. How do you feel, sweetheart? Rachel asks, brushing hair from his forehead. Different. Liam sits up slowly, looking at his hands with fascination, like there was a door inside me that was locked, and now it's open. We help him upstairs and settle him at the kitchen table with a glass of water. He drinks it in small sips, his eyes occasionally drifting to the flame of the stove as Rachel makes him toast. There's no fear in his expression now, no magnetic pull, just curiosity. Can I try something? He asks suddenly, setting down his glass. Rachel and I exchange nervous glances. What do you want to try? I ask cautiously. Liam points to the candle on our counter, the same one that started all this, the one I couldn't bring myself to throw away despite everything. I want to light it, he says, not with matches, with. He wiggles his fingers, searching for the right words. With what's inside me, my instinct is to refuse, to protect him from whatever power nearly consumed him. But the ritual worked. Eliza said it would, and denying what he is now might be more dangerous than helping him understand it. Okay, I say finally, but slowly. And if anything feels wrong, you stop immediately. Rachel places the candle in front of him, then steps back, her hand finding mine and squeezing tight. Liam stares at the unlit wick with intense concentration, his brow furrowing slightly. Nothing happens for several long moments, and I'm about to suggest we try again another day when the wick suddenly sparks and catches flame. The fire is small, controlled, perfectly normal except for how it started. Liam's face breaks into a wide smile, not the eerie, trance-like expression from before, but genuine childish delight. I did it, he exclaims. Did you see that? We saw, Rachel says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hand. That was amazing, Liam. Over the next few days, Rachel begins teaching Liam techniques passed down through the journal exercises in concentration, breathing methods to control emotional flares, visualization practices to contain and direct the fire energy. I document document everything in a notebook of my own, creating a modern guide that future generations might find more accessible than the cryptic journal entries. Why are you writing all this down? Rachel asks one evening as she watches me transcribe notes about Liam's progress. Because no one did this for you, I answer, not looking up from my work. Your father suffered alone. You didn't even know what was happening to Liam until it was almost too late. If he has children someday, they deserve better preparation than either of you got. She kisses the top of my head, a silent acknowledgement of the truth in my words. 2 weeks after the basement ritual, we have our follow-up appointment with Dr. Ellis. I've dreaded this meeting, unsure how to explain Liam's transformation without sounding completely insane. But Rachel insists we keep the appointment. We need allies in the normal world, she says as we drive to the office. People who can help protect him when the fire manifests in public. Dr. Ellis greets us with professional skepticism, clearly expecting to hear that the medication and cognitive techniques have improved Liam's fixation. Instead, Liam asks if he can show her something. Before we can intervene, he focuses on the small decorative candle on her desk and ignites it with nothing but his concentration. Dr. Ellis jerks backward in her chair, her clinical demeanor shattering as she stares at the dancing flame. That's not possible, she stammers. It's very possible, Rachel says calmly. It's a genetic trait in my family. Liam has inherited it, just as my father did, and his father before him. Pyrokinesis isn't real, Dr. Ellis insists, though her eyes never leave the candle Liam lit. Call it what you want, I say. We're not here to convince you of anything. We're here because Liam needs support systems outside our family. People who understand that what he's experiencing is real and requires special accommodations. By the end of the session, Dr. Ellis has moved from denial to cautious acceptance. She agrees to continue seeing Liam, to help him navigate the emotional aspects of his abilities, and to provide documentation for his school if necessary, though we all agree to keep the true nature of his condition confidential. At home, we establish safety protocols for emotional outbursts. Liam's room becomes a safe space with fire-resistant materials. We practice emergency drills for public situations. Rachel teaches him to recognize the warning signs of an impending flare, the tingling in his fingertips, the subtle temperature rise, the heightened awareness of nearby flames. The most remarkable change is in Liam himself. The constant apologies that haunted us for months before his 7th birthday have stopped entirely. He no longer carries that burden of dread, that sense of impending disaster. He's accepted his inheritance with a grace that amazes me. I was saying sorry because I knew something was coming, he explains when I ask him about it. I could feel it building inside me, but I didn't know what it was. I thought I was going to hurt you and Mom by accident. And now? I ask. He smiles, holding up his hand where a tiny flame dances above his palm, perfectly controlled. Now I know I won't hurt anyone as long as I remember what great Aunt Eliza taught us. One evening after dinner, Rachel reveals something that shocks me. As we sit watching Liam practice creating small fire sculptures above the kitchen table, fleeting shapes of birds and butterflies that form and dissipate without burning anything, she rolls up her sleeve and extends her hand. I wasn't entirely truthful before, she admits quietly. The fire ability didn't skip me completely. With intense concentration, she produces a single tiny flame at the tip of her index finger. It's smaller than Liam's creations, more unstable, but undeniably real. It's been dormant most of my life, she explains. I suppressed it after the house fire when I was 7. My parents were so terrified that they convinced me it wasn't real, that I'd imagined my connection to the flames. Eventually I believed them. But now? I ask, watching the small fire flicker on her fingertip. Now I can help teach our son, she says, her eyes reflecting the dancing light. I can show him how to live with this gift without letting it consume him. The following weekend, we visit the cemetery where Rachel's great-grandfather is buried. His tombstone is weathered, but still legible, and around its base, we find the same symbols that appeared in Liam's drawings, carved subtly into the stone. He was trying to leave a message, Rachel realizes, tracing the markings with her finger. A guide for future generations. Liam kneels beside the grave, unusually solemn. He was like me, wasn't he? But he didn't have anyone to help him. That's why we're here, I tell him, placing my hand on his shoulder. To make sure you have what he didn't. The family journal predicts that each generation's power grows stronger, and Liam's abilities already exceed what Rachel's father could do according to her childhood memories. He creates beautiful fire art in our backyard fire pit, shaping flames into complex patterns that hover and dance in the air. The neighbors think we're using special effects for entertainment. Only Mr. Patel suspects the truth, but he keeps his distance and his silence. There's an incident at school when a 5th grade bully corners Liam during recess. The lights in the hallway begin to flicker ominously as Liam's emotions spike, but he remembers his training, takes 3 deep breaths, and walks away before anything can ignite. He tells us about it that evening, pride evident in his voice as he describes controlling the fire inside him. I wanted to scare him, he admits, just a little, but I remembered what Mom said about responsibility. Rachel's mother moves into a condo just 10 minutes from our house, bringing with her more family artifacts and stories that help us piece together the history of the fire gift. She becomes an essential part of Liam's training, sharing techniques that weren't recorded in the journal, but passed down through oral tradition. As for me, I'm learning to accept this supernatural family legacy that I married into unwittingly. I still install smoke detectors and keep fire extinguishers in every room. Old habits die hard, but I no longer fear that my son will burn our house down in his sleep. One night, as I tuck him in, Liam looks up at me with those wise eyes that seem too old for his 7-year-old face. Dad, he says, I promise, I'll only ever use the fire to protect us, never to hurt anyone, even if I get really mad or scared. I believe him. The terror that gripped us just months ago has transformed into something like wonder. My son carries fire in his blood, a gift and a responsibility passed down through generations. And now, for the first time, that gift has found a bearer who understands it from the beginning, who isn't fighting against his own nature. The apologies have stopped because there's nothing to apologize for anymore. Liam isn't a danger to us. He's exactly who he was always meant to be.